Greetings, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Red Pill Diaries. Off rip, it's freezing. Let me tell you this right now. I wanted to do this show for you all. What are the odds? I want you to understand something. What are the odds that we get in the middle of me setting the show up, I get a text message from the internet company saying that there's been trouble reported in the area, and that the internet may mess up. Well, here's the kicker: even the backup internet is messing up right now. What are the odds of that? Huh? I mean, it was working fine. I've been home for roughly about an hour, and I didn't have any problems. And now the dashboard is freezing up, my camera is freezing up, everything is going haywire because they don't want me on the air, and they want to like enrage you for the content. Do you see how I'm freezing? You see how I'm freezing? On my end, I'm freezing. So this is what's going to happen. Hold on one second. I'm going to go out and come back in to see if I can do this. Everybody stay where you are, okay? Please stay where you are. Let me see if I can get off the screen and then come back in without these problems. Every single flipping time. Hold on one second. Let me see if this will work. I hope so. It's working a little bit better. Hold on one second. Let me see something. All right, yeah, we're good. We're good on this end. I had to look down on my phone to make sure that I'm moving, because on my screen it looks like I'm not, and I'm pausing. So right now I want to take the time out to thank each and every one of you for joining me on the most powerful platform for truth, bar none, anywhere across God's green earth. You know it has to be a powerful program for them to implement all of these schemes and plans to disrupt the show, to frustrate you, to frustrate me, all of that. Now, I was downloading clips before the show, and I had no problems. The speed of the internet was just fine. And now that I'm live, this is what I get. I want to thank each and every one of you on Rumble, on Odyssey, on Twitch, on Locals, on Twitter, on the Red Pill Journals and the Red Pill Diaries. Let me make an announcement. This will be part one of this segment of the show, which is the true state of American empire. We're going to have part two tomorrow, and it'll be for channel members and for patrons. And then we'll have part three after that. And I don't know if it'll be on YouTube for everybody, but we're going to have that. So I want to get to a few things. This should enrage all of you. Here we go again. It's doing the same thing again. Come on. You got to be flipping kidding me. Everybody, hold on one second. This has got to be crazy, man. I'm telling you. All right, here we are. This is absolutely crazy. You should be enraged. You should be mad as hell at the contempt and the level of disrespect that Joe Biden, his administration, the Congress, and the American government in totality have been and are still showing the contempt and hatred towards you. Why do I say that? Do you know in the bill that was passed in Congress that went to Joe Biden's desk, the one that allocates money for Israel, the one that allocates money for the military industrial complex, the one that allocates money so-called for Ukraine, and then allocates money towards Taiwan so that Taiwan can face the same fate as Ukraine. Do you know in that bill, there were some provisions in there that most people overlook? And here is the contempt towards you. America borrows this money from the people, from her citizens, and she borrows this money from China and Russia and African nations and Latin American nations and some European nations and some Middle Eastern nations, right? She's borrowing this money, and she sees it fit to rush this bill through in her parliament or Congress, right? To pay for health care for all Ukrainians. You know that? Man, they're messing with my show. Hold, let me get off of this and come right back in again. Let's see if it'll work. All right. See if it'll put me back up here. Let's see if it'll work. If it'll work right now. Okay, let's see if it'll work. Anyway, she allocated money in her bill to provide for the government of Ukraine, because you know the Ukrainian system is set up where I think there's basic health care. It's not set up now. Mind you, Ukraine is the most corrupt country in the world, but yet they see the need to provide medical services for their citizens, unlike the so-called beacon of democracy here in the West, where they pillage you and rob you and rape you for every cent, every dime, and every nickel that you get. But in this bill that was passed, America allocated money to the Ukrainian budget to pay soldiers, to pay government officials, to keep the health care afloat, which means that the people in Ukraine will be receiving medical services courtesy of you. That's not, you don't get mad about that. You can't go to the ER. You can't go to urgent care and receive these services without first paying and then paying thereafter. But America sees it fit, and she sees it more in her national interest. Let me take these things off the screen right here. Maybe this will help a little bit. Hold on one second, everybody. Maybe this will help a little bit. Remove from studio. All right, we'll remove that from the studio. Hold on one second, everybody. I can pull it up at any time off my computer. So just bear with me, okay? Because they're freezing my screen. All right, remove from studio. Maybe this will work a little bit better. I'm fighting against the machine trying to do the show. That's for sure. And they want to do everything they can to discredit me and to destroy what we're trying to build here. There's like I said, they suppress the numbers, they take the numbers away, they do all of this stuff to keep the show from prospering, to keep the show from blowing up. All right, but that's okay. Let's go back to the subject at hand. America sees it fit, and it is in her national interest, according to Joe Biden, according to the Speaker of the House, according to the majority leader of the House, according to the leaders in the Senate. They see it more of a national interest to allocate your tax dollars, to allocate money that they have borrowed from people whom they claim to be their adversaries. They see it more than national interest to allocate that money to Ukraine than for you to have basic health care, for you to be able to pay your bills, for you to have a decent living. Listen, if you're not feeling contempt, that you're not alive, I want you to think about this. You work hard. The government doesn't ask you to, can they take money from you? They just take it. They take the money before you ever see your portion, right? After taking the money before you see your portion, they're already spending that money without your approval. And the money that they're spending without your approval is for the benefit of others and not the benefit of you. How in the hell can that be just? And how can that justify these people who are so-called leaders of the nation? I'm asking. It's absolutely insane that you're not outraged to be able to provide basic health care for all Ukrainians. It was a nation of 40-some million. It's now a nation, I believe, of 20-some million or something like that. 20 or 30 million, right? And America has allocated money to the Ukrainian government, who then will allocate money to all of the services, all of the services that are provided by a government or whatever. But you can't get that help. 20 billion to erase homelessness. Another 30 to 40 billion to completely erase poverty. $60 billion. The money that they call that they were going to allot to Ukraine could have been used in America to not only alleviate homelessness, but completely eradicate poverty. How is that not making you mad? And how is that in America's interest to allocate money for war thousands of miles away on some other nation's border and with some other nation, dividing those Slavic nations up? But she does not see it in her national interest to provide basic health care services for you. She does not see it in her interest to help you pay for living expenses or for job creation or for education, Head Start, all of this stuff. How is that how is that not a national security threat? These people have proven that they're inept, they're corrupt, their hatred of the average person is unreal. Because when you look at this in this light, there is no way that you can say that America really loves Americans, right? There's no way, right? Absolutely no way that you can say that. 60, what they say, they're going to allocate 61 billion to Ukraine. 40 to 60 billion of it, if they would have allocated it within America's domestic system, could have completely eradicated homelessness, completely eradicated poverty. But that is not a national security interest. Isn't it the job of the government to provide for the people whom it governs? Isn't it the responsibility of the government to make sure that the people they govern are able to afford living and able to live comfortable and normal? Well, this government and the previous governments in America have failed in their job. And when a person shows you over and over and over that they're not qualified for a job, what should happen? Do you think if I went to Microsoft and I put all of these lies on the paper, oh yes, I'm good at this and I'm good at that. Now, remember who we're talking to. We're talking about me, somebody that's dumb when it comes to technology, okay? I put all of this stuff up there. So they say, okay, we're going to hire you as the CEO. You're going to lead our company into the future. And more times when they look around and say, oh, this guy doesn't understand these kind of spreadsheets. This guy doesn't understand these things over here. He doesn't understand this. He doesn't understand that. But in his resume, he says such and such and such. And that was the requirement for us hiring him. So we hired him. And over, he's shown that he does not have the mental makeup of the capacity to lead the company or to great levels or instruments of power that we gave to him for the benefit of the company and the shareholders. What would happen to me? Huh? If I did that, what would happen? Microsoft would kick my behind out the door as quick as a lightning strike. So why is it different when you're talking about people who are at the helm of nations and governments? It's absolutely unreal, right? When you look at it that way. You know I'm the king of analogy, so I'm going to give you a good analogy so that you can put it in your life and that you can see it the right way and not the way that they're trying to present it to you. Joe Biden and all of the previous administration before him have shown that they have not the testicular fortitude nor the mental fortitude to do what is incumbent upon a leader, and that is what is incumbent upon them is to do what's beneficial to their people. That means to make amends for all of the wrong that you've done and stop doing it. Don't just say, I'm sorry for stabbing you in the leg, and as soon as I say, okay, well, I forgive you, I look around, you have about 16 more knives stabbing me in the back. So if make amends, don't just say I'm sorry. Do what's incumbent upon a person who has committed crimes. You do what's right. You pay retribution. You pay what is owed to the victims, right? But these leaders, they continue to use this lingo that's over the heads of the people, and they continue to rob, steal, pillage, and wage war for the benefit of the few at the expense of the masses. This is the true state of American empire: debt, division, and war. Let me say that again. This is the true state of American empire: debt, division, and war. So I was looking at something, as a matter of fact. Let me so we'll be going in and out. And every time I go in and out, I'll say, hold on one second. Let me take my picture down for a minute and then come back up and see if it'll work a little bit faster. So I'm gonna say, hold on one second. We gotta go through these roadblocks. We have to go through these roadblocks. So hold on one second as I get take my picture off the screen and then put it back up. See if it'll work a little faster. Now, here we are. I wonder if the big channels have to do this. I wonder if the so-called people in the know that have the large audiences, do they have to go through this? And if not, then why will a small channel, according to YouTube, have to go through this? I'm not lying about anything. I'm not embellishing anything. I'm not promoting death, rape, pillaging, lies, deceit, or exploitation. As a matter of fact, this show is built to condemn that and give you the power and the tools that is needed to overcome those things that these institutions, government and social, use and employ against you. All right. Shout out to everybody in the chat. Shout out to people in the chat. But let me go to something. Where is it at? So I was looking at something. And this shows you just the state of American politics. This shows you the state of the American empire, right? When America chooses a nation abroad to spend the money and to bring security to, and ignores the very people at home, right? Think about it. Some of you should ask your congressmen and congresswomen, what is so important about Ukraine that's not as important as the average Joe who can't hardly pay their bills, who have to forego on either electricity or gas money or medicine to pay rent, to pay the car note? What is so much in the national security interest of America in Ukraine that is not in America's national interest in America? There's an old saying, he who defends everything defends nothing and leaves themselves exposed at home. That is a true saying, because we see it right here, right now, when dealing with the American empire. She always is talking about humanitarianism and human rights, and it's the greatest violator of human rights. She's the greatest purveyor of violence on the face of the planet. In your existence, you've only been at peace for less than a decade. How is that not a bloodshed? Huh? How is that not showing imperial hubris and a disdain for national sovereignty, independence, and the rule of law? When you're bombing, raping, pillaging, occupying, and demonizing everybody. And it's never America, the UK, or Europe's fault. Never, ever. They create something, it blows up in their face, and it's the creation's fault, not the creators. Think about that. Europe is screaming about the influx of migrants, and we're over capacity with these. We've got to stop them from coming to Europe. They want to come to us to live right. Well, if you would have stayed out of Africa, destroying governments, assassinating governors of the states, color revolutions, and sending your military and your corporations in to rob and pillage those nations, guess what would happen? You wouldn't have an influx of migrants. This is a direct result of your arrogant racist policies. Nobody wants to talk about it, but I will. And if I alienate you with the truth and you no longer want to be a part of this, then go ahead. You weren't worth it anyhow. Because as I often tell you, truth will prevail regardless to whom or what. Muammar Gaddafi warned Europe and NATO that if you remove me, he said, I stand as the door to keep the migrants from coming into Europe. If you remove me, there will be a massive influx of migrants, so much that you can't deal with. He forewarned them of this. And yet they lied on him, demonized him, went to the UN and made the UN halt their thing they were going to do for him. They had this schedule for him where they were going to present him with a humanitarian award for taking his country from the poorest nation on planet Earth to making it the richest nation, not just in Africa, but on the Mediterranean Sea. And if I'm not mistaken, there are European nations that reside on the Mediterranean Sea. So the United States, France, Germany, and the UK forced the UN to postpone that so that they can justify, because if that would have took place, they wouldn't have had the legs to stand on to wage an unjust, illegal war to remove Gaddafi from power. And now they have an influx of migrants. They say they won't assimilate. If they can't assimilate, they need to go home. You destroyed their home. That's what you did. They didn't come and bomb Europe. You bombed them. They didn't bomb America. America bombed them. And now you're screaming about the blowback or the consequences of this imperial policy that you continue to try to propagate and promote the world over. When you continue to do wrong, what do they tell you as a kid? Tell the truth, own up to what you've done, and try to make amends. Now, they tell you, I know my mom told me that because that was basic. So if that is what is being told to children, why isn't the government taking heed to that and doing the same thing? If it works for a person, governments are made of people, so it should transcend just one person, and it should be implemented by a whole government, and that would make things better. But instead, it's Russia's fault. Russia is the greatest threat to the liberal world order since World War II. But you're not the greatest threat to world security and peace, threatening the world and holding the world hostage with not one, not two, not three, but 12 aircraft carrier groups. 12, not one, not two, not three, 12. And these aircraft battle carrier groups consist of dozens of warships, not peace ships, not builder-up ships, but warships and destroyers. You understand? Know what that is about. They don't send humanitarian ships to the shores of other nations to say, hey, listen, we think you're wrong, but you have a difference of opinion. Let's negotiate. And while we're negotiating, let us deliver this aid to other people. No, they go to other nations' shores and force them to capitulate or face the onslaught of Western military might. And when things don't go as planned, guess what? It's the regime of Assad. It's the regime of the Taliban. It's the regime of the dictator, Muammar Gaddafi. Putin is a dictator. Xi Jinping is a dictator. Maduro is a dictator. Huh? Are they threatening American people and American shores with warships? No. Are they putting bases in Canada and Mexico and close to Hawaii? In the U.S. occupied Virgin Islands? No. Are they doing it to the UK occupied Virgin Islands? No. Are they putting warships and warplanes close to the occupied Malvinas Islands? No. But everywhere you look, America and NATO is doing it to everybody else. But everybody else, when they buck up against them and say, no, we're not going to go for this, they are the arrogant, belligerent ones, and they are the ones who are provocative. If this is not Orwellian doublespeak, you tell me what is. Huh? Tell me what it is. If it's not Orwellian doublespeak, I'll deploy a carrier group, let's just say consisting of 30 warships and a submarine, to your shores. I'll fly my warplanes. They say the airspace of country goes out 12 miles. I'll fly my warplanes right up to that 12-mile line, armed to the teeth. And when you react and send your warplanes in your airspace to violating your airspace or your sovereign waters or your borders, you are the provocative one. How is that? If that is not Bizarro World or Orwellian doublespeak, what is? Because I want to ask every one of you who are listening right now. Let's be real about this. Is Russia and China, Iran, Venezuela, Chad, Mali, Niger, Burkina Faso, Syria, are those nations deploying carrier battle groups to the Gulf of Mexico or off the coast of California or close to Hawaii? Are those nations building up bases? And the United States announced that she's going to try to turn oil rigs into floating military bases off the coast. See, she wants to skirt international law, the very laws that she claimed to be following. Turn them in military bases off the shores of other people. But we don't see that from the so-called belligerent dictator nations. They're not putting oil wells armed to the teeth with missiles and troops off the coast of France, off the coast of the UK. They are not coming together, creating a Eastern AUKUS close to the English Channel or the Gulf of Mexico. But everywhere we look, we see America, the UK, and NATO doing it to everybody else. But everybody else is the belligerent ones, the provocative ones, and they are dictators, regimes, and they are against freedom, peace, and security. But America has 12 battle groups that she deploys around the world to keep everybody held hostage at the barrel of a gun. That's not provocative. Not against the national security of nations. Stop this, man. Y'all got to stop this. Stop it. And I know that for those of you who are listening, I know they're messing with the show. I know it. I know it. But we're going to power through this, okay? Suck it up and let's power through it. Let's say that again together. Suck it up and let's power through it. All right? So let's go to something. So this is what it said in RT. Where's my water at? Oh, cold water. I have these see-through cups and I put ice in them and they get so cold. It's so cold. All right, let's look at this article. The article is on RT and it is called, the title of it is Blinken in Beijing. The U.S. tried to turn China against Russia, but did it work? Now, that's a lot to unpack just in that article. There's another article talking about what Blinken did and how he went to China to demand this and demand that. Matter of fact, let me see if I can pull that article up too. All right, hold on one second. Where's that article? Let me put U.S. China up in here. Hold on, U.S. Boom. I think I'm messing it up. Hold on one second, everybody. China. Let's see if that'll work. All right. Let's see. Hi, there it is. There it is right here. So we have two articles. All right. And I see that the count keeps going up and going down. And I know that YouTube is and StreamYard are knocking people off. Okay, I already know that. Thank you for emailing me. I won't say your name, but thank you for emailing me. I've been paying attention. Okay, but I appreciate that. Now, in this article, this is what it said. Matter of fact, let me pull it up real quick. It says Blinken threatens China over Russia ties. Now, I want you to understand something about this. Okay, let me take my face off the screen for a minute and bring it back up and see if it'll work a little bit better again. Okay, all right. Is it gonna let me back up? All right, there we are. I don't know what's going on now. My thing says the signal, the internet signal is strong. It's strong. So I don't understand why this is pausing and freezing and buffering and stuff like that. Well, I understand, but it is what it is. I can only do what I can do. All right. And I'm going to continue to do what I do. So this article says Blinken threatens China over Russia ties. Now, I want just that alone should show you the hypocrisy of America in the Western world. Okay. Now, you say that you're about freedom, territorial integrity, and national sovereignty. And yet you're trying to dictate who China should be friends with, who Russia should be friends with. You got a beef with Russia, so you go to Russia's friend and you try to threaten and strong arm them into turning against a friend that you share a border with. All right? It's not like China can pick up the Chinese nation and put it over there in Latin America. They are stuck together. China borders Russia. Russia is the biggest supplier right now of gas to China. Right? China is investing huge amounts of money in Russia. China didn't go even as I want you to see this because if you don't look at this like this, you'll never understand the hypocrisy and the arrogance of these people who govern these nations in the West. Okay, America goes to China to threaten and strong arm China to turn against his partner, whom it shares thousands of kilometers of border with them, right? And they say because of Russia's ongoing war with Ukraine, right? Now, China didn't go to Europe and tell Europe you got to separate yourself from America because America continues to say the one China policy, and on the back end, she's continually arming and training Taiwanese on the island of Chinese Taipei. China did not get involved in that. China did not try to turn Europe against America. But we see America trying to turn China against Russia. It's all about what I say go. You understand? When you have ruled so total and you have been able to dictate the terms to the entire world for decades, it's hard for you to accept that you're no longer that far above everybody and that now you can't just demand things and people just say, aye, aye, Capitan, and do it. You're not the superpower that you once were, and they're not the lagging nations that they once were. And this reality is something that America will not grab to her own detriment. She's still living in 1983, 1984, and is refusing to accept that the world is moving on past her and past European dominance. This is a truth that, as what did your book say about Jesus? What did he say? You shall know the truth, and what? The truth will make you free, right? America is in bondage to imperialism, to fascism, to racism, to greed, to war, to occupation, to domination, because she refuses to accept that truth that would make her free. She thinks that if everybody's on an equal playing field, regardless of the rhetoric, that we can outcompete anybody. If you can outcompete anybody, then why are you willing to take the world to war because you're losing your economic and military advantage? Huh? And you guys look at me right now. I just got done done working. I told you I'm doing some renovations, so you got to excuse me. And I wanted to be a man of my word and do the show. But everybody that's listening, remember to join us tomorrow. We'll have, I don't know if it's going to be 2 streams, but I know for a fact we're going to have 1 Patreon and channel member stream tomorrow, which will be part 2 of this show. And hopefully everything will work better. Who knows? I might go out on my patio and do the show if the mosquitoes and stuff are not biting. But anyway, listen. This is what it said in the article. The U.S. Secretary of State says Washington is prepared to impose more sanctions on Beijing over the alleged transfer of military components. The arrogance, the hypocrisy. So you want, on one hand, to say that you're about sovereignty of nations, and yet, on the other hand, you want to impose your laws on China because those are U.S. laws. Remember, the U.S. imposed that through the Congress and the president. This was not considered at the United Nations, not the UN, but the U.S. imposed that. That's under U.S. jurisdiction, not under Chinese jurisdiction or international jurisdiction. So she's trying to impose and her laws on China and other people. You understand? Is that not hypocrisy at its finest? Let me get off this and try it again. Hold on 1 second, everybody. Boy, YouTube and StreamYard, you suck. Hold on. 1, 2, 3. We should be on. So now check this out. Are they going? Okay. On my end, they weren't letting me see. But anyway, so let's go a little further and examine this, because I told you it's a lot to unpack. The U.S. Secretary of State says Washington is prepared to impose more sanctions on Beijing over the alleged transfer of military components. Now, look at this. If Beijing were to do that for America and Europe supplying military components to Ukraine, America would say this was unjust. Europe would say this was unjust. That's from the views of the Chinese. But they would just be doing what you're doing. So you are now intervening into their sovereign policies, meaning that you are disrespecting territorial integrity and national sovereignty because you're trying to superimpose U.S. law and the U.S. view on the Chinese. Why doesn't anybody talk about that? Why aren't any people discussing that? And I hear some of the pundits who talk against this war in Russia, in the Ukrainian-Russian situation. And almost all of them talk about how disgusting the war is. But they talk about the insanity of the war that the United States is trying to have with China. But they can deal with that more than they can deal with the war with Russia. Why is that? Is it because those people are yellow? Huh? A tinge of racism, right? Is it because that nation is asserting its own sovereignty and its own foreign policy? A tinge of arrogance and hubris, isn't it? If anyone were to treat America or Europe the way they're treating everybody else, in the eyes of the Western world, this would be unacceptable. To show you how much hypocrisy they show and how they view themselves as so much above everybody else. Look at this. And the world knows that Israel bombed Iran's consulate. All right. Hold on. Hold on 1 second. Let's see. Everybody knows that, and I just Googled this. See, I do this right on the spot. Everybody knows that Israel had been assassinating professors, dignitaries, engineers, scientists in Iran. They know that. They know that Iran had been turning the other cheek to keep the focus on the Palestinian conflict so that it can gain more prominence in the views of the people. Everybody knows without hesitation, and everybody knows, and this is not up for dispute, that Israel bombed the consulate building belonging to Iran in Syria. And here is what they use as a justification: that it was used for spying and it was used by the IRGC. Now, let's not even try to disprove that. Let's just go with their rational thinking, okay? That the reason for the bombing is because the consulate building was used for what I just said, okay? That it was used by the IRGC and it was used for spying. One consulate building that's not used by the West like that. So if we use the justification of Israel and the United States, then Russia, China, Iran, Venezuela, and all of the global South has the right to bomb the hell out of America, the UK, and all European consulates. If we use that justification, because every Western consulate is used for that. So now when we address that, we can see the hypocrisy of the West. I mean, it is in living color. It's in HD right now as we're talking. So now look at this. So the whole world watched Israel bomb the consulate. And this is Article 51 of the UN Charter, okay? You can do this. Put in, what was the word? Article 51 of the UN Charter. And part of this says right here, nothing in the present charter shall impair the inherent right. Listen to this part. Shall impair the inherent. That means that they are born with this right. That America can't give it to them and America can't take it away. That Europe can't give it to them and Europe can't take it away. That NATO can't give to them and NATO can't take away. It's inherent. It's your right by birth, according to the word, okay? Listen to this. Nothing in the present charter shall impair the inherent right of individual or collective self-defense if an armed attack occurs against a member of the United Nations until the Security Council has taken measures necessary to maintain international peace and security. So we know that Israel bombed Iran. See, this goes back to hypocrisy. I'm going to show you this stuff, okay? And it right in your face. We know that. The United States even admitted that Israel bombed Iran. They committed an act of terror against Syria and an act of war. So Syria has the right, according to the UN Article 51, an inherent right to respond to the bombing of their territory. You understand? Now let's look at this again. They bombed the consulate building, which is an extension of the embassy, which means that we know by international law and all of these treaties that the embassy and the consulate is considered the territory of the nation that it represents. That was an Iranian consulate. So according to the UN Charter number 51, Article number 51, Iran has the inherent right. They are born with that right that neither the UK, the U.S., Germany, or France can delegitimize to respond militarily, right? Now that we have that, because Google it, it's right there, just Google it. And now that we have that understood, and Iran responded, why is the United States and the European Union sanctioning Iran for retaliating against Israel's act of war? They are not sanctioning Israel for its blatant violation of international law and the territorial integrity and sovereignty of two nations. They are sanctioning the nation that was forced through its inherent right to respond to the bombing of its territory. Orwellian, hypocritical, and arrogant. That's the West. You understand? So I told you when we talk to you with truth, I'm not going to embellish anything. We're going to break down what these people say, and we're going to understand what they are meaning. This is the only way to uproot a system, because this system is cancerous, and we must know what the system likes and what it feeds on. It feeds on war. It feeds on debt. It feeds on pillaging. It feeds on exploitation. It feeds on the misery of the masses for the benefit of the few. All right. What does it not like? It does not like sovereignty, independence, freedom of thought and mind, right? And economic, military, and political sovereignty. So if it does not like that, we have to empower ourselves to know what's going on so that we can get what they don't like, make a vaccine, because the world is the host body, and we've got to inject that into the world so that we can kill off the virus. Okay? We're going to go a little further. So now, see the hypocrisy? Europe and the United States boldly states that they are sanctioning Iran for bombing Israel. They didn't say that they were going to sanction Iran for retaliating for the bombing of the territory. They were sanctioning Iran for bombing Israeli territory, as if Israel didn't bomb Iranian territory. This is America to lose her position globally. The contradictions, the lies, the deception, the double standards, the hypocrisy, and of course, on top of all that, the hubris. That's what's causing it. She will not do right by people. And when you don't do right by people and you continue to alienate this government and this leader and this nation, one after the other, guess what? Don't look to those nations to be friends. Look for those nations to eventually come together, because they're weaker apart. Eventually look for them to come together so that they can mount a response to your arrogance and your hubris. That's what we're seeing. And this has the American empire and the Western world so enraged that the nations of the world no longer want to just lay down and take it. They don't want to be pillaged. They don't want to be raped. They don't want to be demonized. They don't want to be dehumanized. They don't want that. They want to be respected as human beings, as everybody want to be respected. So they're mounting their response to decades upon centuries of Western hubris and arrogance. Don't let anybody else fool you. I was saying to you all the other day about the rule of law. I heard, and I'm not going at Colonel McGregor. I actually like a lot of his views. All right, but Colonel McGregor talks about the rule of law, and it has to be reinstated, right? And he talks about the people protesting the monuments being torn down. They want to tear the monuments down, and this is a part of American history, and it shouldn't be torn down. And I agree that it's a part of American history. It shouldn't be torn down. But at the same time, if we're going to take that view, then how can you whitewash what America did? With the extermination of the Indians, with the extermination of black people in America. You know, I was reading something today. I was going over some of my history books. I'm going to tell you how wicked America was and is, and how wicked England is and was. When they would sell people at the auctioning blocks, look at it, because this has everything to do with what I'm saying. And my white audience is going to take offense to this. Not from me. They're going to take offense to America from what I'm about to tell them. All right. So I was reading, I was going back, and I was studying some stuff off the Library of Congress. And then I had a few books from scholar J.A. Rogers and a few other people. Who else? It was about 4 or 5 scholars. I was reading their writings earlier when I had a little time. And I was looking at something. And America is so arrogant. She's so greedy for profit. Do you know what they would do to white? Now, because I'm talking to the white audience now. You remember how I was telling you about how they treated black people and how they still do, but how they treated black people for 64 years, from 1555 to 1619. That was what they call the dehumanization process. Okay, they hid that part of history. This is what they said it took to make a nigger, because prior to that there was no niggers or Negroes. But they took that and they used that to make. Listen, this is not coming from me. This is coming from the brutality that was forced upon those people. And then they breeded them. They said that they would breed them like animals, right? Now, Colonel McGregor and everybody screaming about the rule of law. What was the rule of law then? And on top of that, how are you going to scream about your product when you made it? You're the potter. How are you going to be mad about the clay? You're mad because when you forged this cup, you thought it was going to be drinkable, but you see its holes at the bottom now, and you're mad and cursing at the cup that you're drinking out, but you're the maker of it. So look at what happened to the white people. And this, I found this, I was like, whoa, I didn't even know that part. So check this out. So they would go into little orphanages. I'm talking about, this is in the 1700s, 1800s, and so on. They would go into little orphanages where there were white children. And they would get them and they would almost like, you know how you can sun spray people? They would get stuff to darken, to tint their skins, right? And then they would put them on the auctioning block and pretend as though they was black people. So they were selling them too. I was like, man, these people they are insane. They were taking little kids. I don't care if they were black, white, brown, red, or yellow in that orphanage house. They were taking those little white kids and they were tinting their skins, and then they were selling them on the auctioning block, pretending as if they were black people, to be, because they said that black people were chattel, the property of white people. Even in the Constitution today, they don't recognize black people as human beings. They recognize them as 3/5 of a human being. 3/5. People, that was back then. Yeah, but it's in your highest a law. The Constitution, what everybody refers to, if it doesn't get pulled out there, regardless of what you believe about it, then that is law. You understand? So these people have a lot. Boy, they have a lot. Think about how evil you got to be to go into little orphanages and snatch little kids out and put them on. Man, bro, I'm telling you. Oh, man, I tell you what. This is crazy. But I'm just showing you the hypocrisy and the arrogance. They will sell their mother if they can get a profit off of it. Do you understand? That's why they don't like this show. Because I don't pull no punches. This is a no holds barred. I'm going to give it to you straight without a chaser. You understand? So, again, they're going to sanction Iran for what? Responding. And it has according to the UN, Iran's response was its inherent right. You know what? Okay, let's look at something real quick. Okay. Because we need to get a full understanding of this. All right. Now, according to Google, the word inherent is an adjective. It means as a permanent, essential, or characteristic attribute. Right? It says intrinsic, innate, imminent. Okay? So this is a birthright. It was enshrined into the very organization that America built, the United Nations. That was a creation of the United States and the Western powers. So it enshrined the inherent right to respond to an attack, meaning that is Iran's right because it is a sovereign nation and a member of the very organization that America helped found. And you're going to sanction the people who responded and not the people who initiated the attack. Orwellian hypocrisy on top of all of this, you mix it with hubris and arrogance and a tinge of religious racism, and you got the policies of the West. Isn't that something? That's something, right? So oh yeah, that's absolutely crazy. We learn these definitions to empower you, okay? So that you won't think that I am making something up or that I am misrepresenting something. So we go to the dictionary to give you a thorough understanding of these words so that you'll see who's telling the truth and who's lying. All right. I'm passionate about it. You can see me. I get animated. When you're passionate about something, you put your all into it. If you want to be a cyclist, you give it your all. If you want to be a fighter, you give it your all. Or else there's no reason to start. I'm passionate about the truth because I got burned so many times on the back end for being deprived of the truth. And when you look at the truth as a gift from God and his blessings to you, you want to share those with everybody. You want them to see this too. You want them to understand it as you understand it. Because understanding is golden and it empowers you. All right. So look, I'm gonna go in the chat in a minute. I see y'all in the chat. So let's go back to Blinken. The U.S. Secretary of State says Washington is prepared to impose more sanctions on Beijing over the alleged transfer of military components. Washington is ready to introduce more sanctions against China over its alleged transfer of dual-use goods and components, which it claims can be used by the Russia. It means Russians, all right, or Russia, without the "the" in it. It says U.S. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken said on Friday. So now look at this. Washington is ready to introduce more sanctions against China over its alleged transfer of dual-use goods and components. Now, you see what that is? That's a red herring. So let me tell you what that's about. Almost all of the components that go in televisions and computers, right, and phones can be used in military applications. So in essence, America is telling China to cut off trade ties with Russia or we'll sanction you. And here's the kicker. So now, and here is something that went over a lot of people's head. You know why Anthony Blinken is making those statements? First of all, he's testing the water to see if China will bow and bend, number one. Number two, he wants an excuse for why the West is losing. The entirety of the Western military industrial complex, from Italy to California, are being destroyed by the Russian military and its military industrial complex. They're being outmaneuvered, they're being outgunned, outproduced on every level. And they need an excuse every time they get in a little quagmire. It's somebody else's fault. I told you, these people are children. They never own up to the evil that they do. They'll make a joke about it in a presidential correspondence dinner. They never truly apologize and make amends for the wrong that they've done and they're doing. And it's always somebody else's fault. If that is not the action of a child, you tell me what. So it's Russia's fault for defending, for going into Ukraine because you had dozens of biolabs on its border. It's Russia's fault for going into Ukraine because you had intelligence and spying bases right on the border of Russia. It's Russia's fault for going into Ukraine because you were turning Ukraine into a NATO military base. It's Russia's fault for going into Ukraine because you overthrew the duly elected, democratically elected president of Yanukovych to impose your will on that nation so that you can throw Russia out of the Crimean Peninsula so that you can seize the bases there to set up for you and the UK. That's Russia's fault, though. Huh? You had nothing to do with it. You're not fighting the war, even though you just said you're sending more trainers to Kiev to show them how to use the weapons. Listen to me good. I don't advocate violence, but I know when violence comes, you're supposed to fight like hell to minimize your exposure to the violence. There is no way on earth. I don't care. I don't even have to be the president of the Russian Federation. I could be the president of the Syrian Arab Republic. There is no flipping way on planet Earth that you can say that to me and all the intelligence points towards you doing that and me not reacting. There's no way. Absolutely no way. No way. No way on earth. Well, you'll get blown to smithereens. Well, my sacrifice will pave way for other nations to stand up. And I think that's a good sacrifice. Because right now, almost all the nations on planet Earth are on their knees. They're trying to stand up. The empire is falling, but it still has power, pull, and influence. I think that would be a great sacrifice, to sacrifice my nation so that other nations in the entire world can live free of the brutality and the dictates of the imperialistic West. You're not going to tell me that you're going to supply, like, if I'm Vladimir Putin and you're telling me that you're supplying, I'm going to bomb every building that you're in, every one of them. Every single one of them. You will not, because I hear all of these pundits talk. But here is something that they need to also put in the equation. As Russia allows America and NATO to become more belligerent, even though Russia is winning the battle big time, Russian soldiers are dying. Russian citizens are dying. And it is the responsibility of the government of any nation to protect the people and the sovereignty of their nation and to do the best that they can to preserve the lives of those who are citizens of their nation. And if you don't do that, you become derelict of duty. It is not like the world doesn't know that Russia tried to negotiate multiple times and tried to tell, hey, pull your bases out of here. Let's not go through this. Because if we go through this, you're going to lose. Let's just leave it. But America and the West continues to push. Think about it. Syria and Assad is the tyrant. America is in Syria. The UK is in Syria. Libya is the tyrant. Did Libya bomb France? No. How about the UK? No. The US? No. Then why in the hell did you bomb them into the Stone Age? Venezuela is the Venezuelan president is a dictator. Did Venezuela attack America? Does Venezuela have bases on the Mexican-US border? No. But does America have that close to the Venezuelan border? Have they tried to assassinate the leader? Yeah. Are they trying to overthrow the leader? Yeah. But it's Venezuela that is the dictatorship. Maduro is the dictator and the dictator of the regime. Then when you turn and you say, did Iran assassinate General Milley? No. But did America assassinate General Soleimani? Yes. And everybody's fine with that. Okay. America is openly bragging. The UK is openly bragging. The French are openly bragging about sending mercenaries and weapons to maintain this war in Ukraine. Russia has been warning and warning. People say, well, if Russia reacts, then this might go nuclear. Well, the hell with it then. If America and the West want to push it that way, then it is what it is. You can't expect a person to continue to allow you to kick them, spit on them, bite them, or stick them with knives and not react. See, we built different. We're built different. I know that we could be on the brink of World War III, but aren't we already in World War III? I would not use nuclear weapons, but I'll respond if you try to use them. But guess what? If you're shipping weapons, this is Russia's mistake here, right here. After they started drawing in all of those mercenaries and all of their weapons, all the weapons, so that they can demilitarize the West. What they should have done is drop troops or sent troops around the periphery of Ukraine, the borders. so that they can control the border areas with special forces, satellites, and drones, right? That way, it could have minimized mercenaries coming in there, and minimize the transit of weapons there, which would have saved lives in the Donbass and Russia, okay? And it would have saved innocent Ukrainian lives too. Now, on top of that, Russia should have made a warning to them from when that terrorist attack. I'm not talking about in Moscow. I'm talking about when they hit the Kremlin. And people, how quick we forget. The U.S., the U.K., the French, and their allies, you know, they put it on the Ukrainians. But Russian intelligence they're not stupid. That they tried to hit the Kremlin. They hit the Kremlin with a drone. To show the West I was not playing, I would have hit one of the Western capitals. It would, and then you want to negotiate then, because you'll see that you're not going to rain this death and destruction on me and my people and be free from this. Well, we'll go to war and we'll defeat you. Then do what you must, because I'm going to do what I have to for my people and for my nation. And let the best one win. You cannot allow these people to do it. I told y'all at the beginning that Russia was emboldening the West. When they give them an ultimatum and the West steps over that, they're going to do it 3 times over, then 4 times over. Then and look what happened. They're continuing to escalate. If they would have been socked in the mouth, I'm not talking about in Ukraine, I'm talking about it on so-called NATO territory. NATO would have either had to negotiate or show them what they were about. Do you understand? See, this stuff that I'm talking to you, it seems out there to you. But this is how people conduct business every day on the streets. This is how people conduct business every day in their lives. And if people do this every day on the streets and every day in their lives, and we know that the governments are comprised of people, guess what? Then it should be very useful when you go into government, right? That's a no-brainer. If you sock me, I'm going to sock you back. If you hit my bridge, I'm going to hit the London Bridge. I'm not advocating violence, YouTube. I'm just giving a fictitious perspective, okay, YouTube. So I don't want you to ban me and do all this stuff like this. I'm not advocating violence. I'm trying to promote peace. And sometimes to promote peace, you got to put out different scenarios so other people can see them. If you hit my bridge, how's your bridge going to remain safe? If you sink my warship covertly, how's your warship going to stay afloat? You hit my ship, I'm going to sink 2 of yours. You fire into my territory, I'm going to fire 5 in yours. Once we get that part understood, then the war can remain in Ukraine. And once it remains in Ukraine and we wipe the floor with them, then it's over. And the loss of life is at a minimum. Well, it could go nuclear, it could go to full-blown war. It's already doing that, and at the cost of millions of lives. You understand? Man, I'm telling you. So we'll read a little bit more. Let me go to the chat let me just scan it real quick before I read what's going on. And remember, I'm having problems. They say something is going on with the internet in the neighborhood, but my internet readout says that my internet is good. So it's either they're lying, it's either I'm being messed with by the platforms, StreamYard and YouTube or whatever, but it's all good. So, and I'm not advocating war. I'm telling you what it sounds, what the average person would do. You go on the street and go up to a man and slap him and think he's going to just turn the other cheek. You just walk up to him and say, your wallet in your pocket, I need that, and just slap the man and take it. Do you think that this is going to go smoothly? So why should you think it should go smoothly for the West when they do that in Ukraine? Or when they do it in Iran or Syria or Libya or down in Africa or over in Asia or down in Latin America? If you can give it out, you can receive it. And I'm the kind of person, if you want to dish it out, I'm going to receive what you dish out. But make sure you're prepared to receive what I'm going to dish out in return. I'm never a provocateur. I will try to diffuse a situation if possible. At all costs, I'll try. But when I see that my words and my actions of trying to diffuse the situation is going nowhere, I prepare for war. So if you try to strike me, I will counter and strike you. That's the law of nature. And if you don't implement the first law of nature, your life is not worth living. You understand? A says, man, this thing is freezing. Oh my God, this is starting to really make me mad. Wall Street Treasury, revolving door, plenty of parasite provisioning, a self-licking ice cream. Yep. Check this out. It's not just Wall Street. It's not just Wall Street. This goes from the city, the county, where the city, the district, the county, the state, all the way up to the federal level. It's in all branches of government. Look at Lloyd Austin, the war secretary. What was he before? He was a general in the military, and he is on the board of Lockheed Martin. Look at the rest of them. They share the same path. They were in other things. They moved on to government, and they are also part of either universities getting big checks, or they're part of these big corporations as advisors. This is corruption at its finest. Right? This is corruption at its finest. Now, DG Turr is in the building. Chad Franklin is in the building. Let's see. Sam Stone says, I'm going to put this up here. Hopefully, this will go up there without me freezing. The U.S. is a criminal enterprise controlled by Zion Nazis. You better believe it. Yeah. This is actually excellent right here. This is excellent. Hey, Sam, I'm going to steal that from you, okay? He says the USA caught the British disease and it mutated into a plague. Boom. Mic drop moment. Boom. I got to take that from you. I'm sorry, I got to take that from you. That's absolutely wonderful. Let's see. Sam says, and I'll get down some more to everybody. He says, Satan resides in Washington, D.C. Since 1914. He left some demons behind in London to carry on business. Says, is it going to let me? System, I can't even hardly, it's so small on my screen, I can't even hardly read that. Hey, Majid, could you make it bigger? So I can't hardly read that on my screen. You know they're messing with my thing, so please don't charge it to my heart, charge it to my head, okay? I'm sorry, but I will highlight it like I am, okay? Let's go to the next one. All right. Thanatar 13 says, UMILGB cannot comprehend civilization even when they stare it in the face. Yeah, they are the true barbarians, the destroyers of hundreds of civilizations across Americas, Africa, and Asia. And not just that, guess what? They did to take power in Europe, they destroyed a lot of civilization up there. That's crazy, right? And they say that they are the civilized people. They're the first world. If that's the first world and that's civilization, label me a savage in a third world. Okay? p.1 says, America, land of the thieves. GL says 100. My guy is in the building. Medi says, salute. Man, I hope they don't freeze the screen now. Salute to at the Red Pill Diaries and this informed chat. Salute to you, Medi. Let's see this right here. Medi also says, China officially asking for an investigation into the Nord Stream incident is a huge shot over the bow of the United Nations. Yeah, but that's not all, right? China is also putting the U.S. on notice. Hey, listen, I would not advise you to sanction us over this. We are a sovereign nation with Russia, and we are, those are our strategic allies. If you do this, then you must bear the consequences of this. So the Chinese are not bending, they're not breaking, they're not moving, they're not flinching. They are preparing. Medi says they're going to force the United Nations to investigate full and fairly. You know what? Common sense tells us that the United States, I mean, everybody in the world knows who did it. As I said before, how in the world, and I said this before anybody said it, okay? How in the world can you not know who did the Nord Stream pipeline with all of your spying assets in the waters? And within the drop of a dime, before the smoke even cleared from the burning building, you knew who had perpetrated the terrorist act in Moscow. Man, stop this foolishness. It's unreal. Medi says BRICS is the key. And he say dictionary time. You better believe it. Dictionary time. I'm going to give it to you raw, uncut. I'm going to give it to you. Let's see. China basically sent basically a junior janitor to me. I got to highlight this one, Medi. China sent basically a junior janitor to meet Blinken. Man, that is so, and they disrespected him by doing something almost to what you said, right? A big insult to the Biden administration. That's right. Yeah, right here. MJK, absolutely. This is what I'm talking about right here. Right there. Some Russians think that Putin is too soft, want more assertive action. This is what I'm saying. Even though Putin was elected with 80% of the vote, right? 79, 80%. Some people say 79, some people say 80% of the vote, right? Those people are now demanding that Russia start returning the favors that America and NATO continue to send over to them. You can only do this for so long. This is what I'm saying. You can be the most passionate, the most passive, and the most loving person. And somebody can smack you and kick you and spit on you, and you can turn the other cheek. But if they smack you and spit on you constantly, then they move on to your wife and your children. It'll provoke something in you to stand up. Even if you don't want to do it for yourself, you will not allow them to do it to your children and your family and your wife. This is what I'm talking about. It's time to give them a taste of their own medicine. They've been feeding the world a stream or a buffet of war, destruction, and terrorism. Guess what? If you dish it out, you better be ready to take it, because I'm going to give it back to you. And the difference is, when I give it back to you, I'm not going to hide my hand. I'm not going to regret it. And I'll be just in doing it because I am responding according to the UN Charter or Article 51. It would be my inherent right to respond to your acts of aggression against me, be it terrorism, be it propaganda, or be it direct confrontation or indirect confrontation, according to the UN Charter. I'm not going to hide my hand. Okay? That's real. So now, let's go to this article real quick. All right. Washington is ready to introduce more sanctions against China over its alleged transfer of dual-use goods and components, which it claims can be used by the Russia. It means Russia. U.S. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken said on Friday, speaking at a press conference in Beijing following a meeting with President Xi Jinping. The U.S. official recalled that Washington has already imposed, listen to this, sanctions against more than 100 Chinese entities and is fully prepared to act and take additional measures. Now, right there, I think the Chinese, because the Chinese are so patient, I think they were out of step on that motion right there. When Anthony Blinken would have been addressing his targeted audience, which is the West, from Beijing, I would have interrupted his press conference. I know that's not diplomatically acceptable in the West, but what has the West done that is diplomatically acceptable to everybody else? I would have immediately came out there And I think this is one of the big problems with most leaders. They don't know how to speak English. So when you want to really find out how your adversary ticks, you learn their lingo, you learn their language, you learn how they walk, how they talk, how they get down. So that when you're dealing with them, you'll know the do's and don'ts, right? So if it were me and I was in that position, when Anthony Blinken mounted the rock in Beijing, I tell you, not in Washington, D.C., in Beijing, the capital of the rising superpower, and said that, and almost boasted about this. The U.S. official recalled that Washington has already imposed sanctions against more than 100 Chinese entities and is fully prepared to act and take additional measures. I would have interrupted that and I say, now, guess what? We're going to help you do that because we're ignoring all of your pleas for us to stop interaction with Russia. So you get on the first plane smoking out of here and you do what you must, but you will accept the consequences of what you are doing. And anything that you impose upon us, we're going to come back 50 times harder. You want to sanction us? Okay, sanction us. And I'll let them implement sanctions against TikTok, sanctions against Huawei, sanctions against this. And when they get done with all of that sanctions, if I was China, I would mount the rostrum and I would speak in English first. And I would be speaking directly to the West. Since we have it that you have implemented illegitimate, illegal sanctions against China, we have now come to the conclusion that there is no talking to you, there is no being friends with you. As of this moment forward, all Chinese goods and products will be banned from entering the United States. I would sanction them immediately. I would shut it down. Now see how you're going to deal with that. See how long this lasts. See how long if your nation can get by more than 2 weeks without my goods. And I'll say, and we have already planned to reroute all cargo ships that are heading to the U.S. to other destinations. Now, how you like them apples? Huh? That's not just your prerogative to sanction people. And I want you to think about the lunacy of the policies of sanctioning China. China has 5 of the top 10 banks in the world. They have the top 3 banks in the world. They have the largest amount of billionaires in the world now. They, as I often say, they supply more goods to the United States and the West than anybody. They're the United States' largest trade partner. They're the United States' largest investor. You owe us a tune of $1.3 to $1.5 trillion. So we're going to see if you can withstand the blowback of your sanction policy. See, if you allow a tyrant to continue his tyranny or her tyranny, they will continue so. And they will become more arrogant, more boastful about it. And they'll continue, and then there'll be a miscalculation. But if I tell you up front what the deal is, there's no miscalculation with me. You know where you stand with me. If you cross this line, these are the consequences. And if you follow up crossing that line with this one, these are the consequences. And as you escalate, we will escalate 3 times. If you deploy your ships in the Taiwan Strait, I'm going to sink them. If you don't get your military off the little base, that little rock or that little island that's 2 miles away from us, I'm going to blow it up. If you don't remove your troops from Taiwan, we'll invade. Let's see how you're going to like that. Because it's not just your prerogative to deem who is a tyrant and a dictator and then go unjustly and illegally to bomb them and occupy them and destroy their nations. You don't have that prerogative, that right. So if you want to do this, let's do it. We're not going to halfway do this. My mom always taught me, if you're going to do something, do it to the best of your ability. All right? Don't half step in it. Do it to the best of your knowledge and your ability. My pops taught me that. My mom's taught me that. So If you want to go down this ladder or this escalator, be prepared for the blowback of it. I'm not advocating war. See, if you lay these things out, this is what most people and all of these pundits don't understand. And they should understand because it's clear as day. If you allow the bully to continue to bully, he will become more arrogant in his bullying and more forceful. But if you lay down the law, right, and you say, if you do this, I'm going to do this back to you now, that opens up avenues for discussion. That opens up and it provokes thought in the halls of power that they're serious. That gets you to the negotiating table to prevent war. When you demonstrate your resolve, you can prevent war. Have you ever noticed sometimes, have you watched a movie where the bully is bullying and the guys are cowering and the bully continues to bully and he gets more egregious with his bullying? And then you look at it, some guy comes out of nowhere and the bully tries to bully him and he won't let the bully him and he confronts the bully and the bully backs down some. Because that guy was not willing to take what the bully was dishing out. That applies in government also. Why must I take all of the hits? Why must I suffer? Because people say, well, if you do this, then NATO will intervene and soon it'll go nuclear. Instead of telling me that, tell NATO. I'll tell them, instead of telling me, I'm the one on the battlefield taking losses. I'm the one suffering terrorist attacks. I'm the one in this because they were trying to provoke me. So instead of asking for restraint from the victim, tell the aggressor to restrain themselves, or else we'll be confronted on the battlefield and we'll see who wins. But you're not going to get away with just doing me any kind of way, the way you feel. That's not how life goes. And when you lay that, see, I noticed this, and I know I'm going to get back to the article. I noticed this about people. People are so used, especially in this society, people are so used to fakeness and so used to talking behind people's back and mumbling stuff, and they may have a problem with the person, and instead of confronting it head on, they go mumble and they talk about the person. But if you confronted that person head on and you talk, it's a lot that could have been pushed out the way, and then there could be some ground that you could meet on to defuse the situation. But if you cower, it's only going to become worse. It's only going to become worse. Russia has the inherent right, just like America, to defend her sovereignty. China has the inherent right, just like America, to defend its sovereignty. Iran has that right. Niger has that right. Mali has that right. Chad has that right. Burkina Faso has that right. And all of the nations of the planet Earth have the right to try whatever is within their means to preserve their territorial integrity, their sovereignty, and the livelihood of their people. This is not just a prerogative of the West. And for people to put the onus on Russia not to react, or for Iran not to react, or for China not to react, that is putting the victim, who is already at a disadvantage, in a more precarious situation, because you're not holding the assailant to the law. You're trying to hold the victim to the law and allow the assailant to continue to assail everybody else. That's not how life works, buddy. I know that's not how I work. I don't get down like that. I can be your best friend, but don't do me like that. I'll talk to you peacefully. I'll try to get over the moment and try to come to some type of agreement. But if you're not hearing what I'm saying, if you're not understanding my tone, if you're not understanding my body language, if you're not understanding the humility that I'm trying to show to defuse the situation, then guess what? I got to learn your language and speak it to you. And if your language is that of force, guess what? I'm going to speak that language to you, because that's the only language that you've shown to understand. You understand that? I'm just, I'm just talking with you all. Listen, we might have two streams tomorrow. But I know for a fact we're going to have, if they don't mess with the internet or something like that, God willing, we're going to have a channel members and a patron stream tomorrow. And then if I have the time after I'm doing these walls over here, I'm going to come back and try to do a live stream for everybody else. Listen, I want you to share this message, share this video, share, like, and subscribe. Okay, this is the only way we can continue. Look, there's no excuse for you not subscribing. There's no excuse for you not liking the video. There's no excuses for you for not sharing the video. I'm in here working. I'm in front of you like this, drenched in sweat, to talk to you about the situations at hand and to try to give you a deeper perspective of what's going on, so that when you look at it, you don't just see the dots. You see the outlining of the dots to get the picture. That's what we're trying to do. We want you to see the whole, we want to bring the entire picture into focus, so that you, when you're looking at that picture from a distance and you're only seeing part of it, you don't think that this is a dog, when in reality, it's not. I want to empower you the same way God has blessed me. You want for your brothers and sisters what you want for yourself. If you don't want, then you're not godly. If you're trying to exploit the people, because God has blessed you with a little understanding and a little knowledge of history and geopolitics, if you try to use that to exploit the people, you're not worthy of the blessing of God. We've got to learn to do better and act better, and we've got to start putting those same ethical and moral weights on the person that continues to violate ethics and morality. You can't just put that all the weight on Russians and expect Russia not to respond when they're suffering terrorist attacks, when they're suffering missiles flying into their borders. Russia would be a fool not to respond militarily. And the people would be just to overthrow the government, because they did not do the job that they swore that they would do, to defend their nation with all of their power. That's not just a prerogative of the United States. And that's not just a prerogative of the West. That's, according to the UN, that's your inherent right as a person, as an organization, and as a nation. And if you don't live up to that, are you really worthy to be in a position of stewardship and governance? Of course not. Everybody, thank you all for giving me your time from the bottom of my heart to the depths of my soul. I really appreciate it, because you did not have to. You could have been doing something else, especially today is Friday, and the foolishness is going on. But I appreciate this. I send out my love to each and every one of you who loves truth, but know that the love that I have for you will always, always pale in comparison to the love that my God, the true and living God, has for you. Until we next speak again, stay strong, stay true, but above all, stay righteous. I thank each and every one of you for joining me. Join me again tomorrow. Hey, mama, your baby boy loves you more than life. Deuces, everybody. We're out of here. Peace.